Fucking really? Of all the video games they could have adapted an anime from, they chose Sin? I mean, Sin wasn't a bad game or anything, but... Wait. I think I'm getting ahead of myself here. Fucking really? Okay, where do I even begin? A few weeks ago, I asked my Twitter followers what they thought was the worst anime based off a video game they have ever seen. And of the couple dozen responses I got just as many answers. Surprise, surprise, there's a lot of shitty anime based off a video game out there. I know, big shocker. But there are two things that surprised me about this. One, no two people could agree on what was the shittiest. And two, no one mentioned Sin the movie. Not that I think it's the worst anime based off a video game, but it's bad enough to make me think that the only reason why no one mentioned it was because no one knew that it was based off a PC game. Sin, the game, was released back in 1998 and had the bad luck to be released just 2 weeks before Half-Life, so it never really got the recognition or attention it deserved. In my opinion, it did just about as much for the FPS genre as Half-Life did, at least mechanics-wise. It was one of the first to implement secondary firing modes on weapons. It had vehicle sections, manual reloading, and area-specific damage. Best of all, it didn't make you snap your keyboard in half after falling for the umpteenth time trying to make a goddamn crouching jump. Remember the days you got so fed up trying to reach that platform that you turned off clipping? Ah, the good old days, when no clip was a necessity. But you know the one thing that Half-Life did that Sin didn't do? Have an interesting story. Well, interesting in that Valve sort of way, where they present you more questions than answers and then strings you along for half a decade. Jesus, you'd think our dicks would chafe at the collar they got us by. So if you had the chance to make an anime based off a PC game, do you choose the landmark title that still has fans chomping at the bits for a continuation of the story? Or do you choose the PC game that has a hot woman soaping her tits? Oh yeah, girl. You rub those blocky pixels that roughly approximate boobs. You rub them good. You look like a model from the original Sims if I peed on it. Also, I'd be remiss to not mention that just like Half-Life, Sin 2 towed the waters of episodic gaming. Hell, it beat Half-Life to the punch by a month. And just like Half-Life, it also has seen a stall in release. Except where Half-Life is stalled because, well, Valve, Sin is stalled because no one gives a shit, and the company has since been bought up by a bigger studio and they now make casual games. So with that kind of pedigree on our hands, surely ADV would spend its money wisely with its joint venture with Phoenix Animation and choose only the best talent possible for directing. Yasunori Urata, a former gay porn director. And you wonder why ADV went bankrupt. Well, they sort of based the anime off the game. Kind of. The names are the same at least, although in this case that might not be a good thing.
And it seems hardcore detectives have discovered another drug shipment. ANC News wants to know why they can't find the serial kidnapper of 6 young girls in the Freeport area. Colonel Blade, are illegal pharmaceuticals more important than the lives of young girls?
No comment.
Yes, our main hero is named Colonel John Blade. You think Will Smith saw this before he made After Earth? Colonel Blade of the security firm Hardcore? Fuck, not even Steven Seagal was this lame in his movies. Although not for lack of trying, right, Mason Storm?
I'm gonna take you to the bank, Senator Trent. To the blood bank.
Anyways, Colonel Slab Bulkhead and his cronies are on the case of a kidnapping of a little girl by a mutant. Which is weird, no, not because of the mutant, but because Hardcore is supposed to be a private security force, not a police force. Then again, I'm questioning the operations of an organization called Hardcore. Yes, I know they're not the first to use the title Hardcore, but that doesn't make it any less idiotic. Nevertheless, I feel like I should explain a little about the setting, because the anime sure as hell doesn't. It's the future, governments and their agencies, or corrupt and gigantic corporations, rule the world. Cyberpunk 101, okay? See how fast that was, movie? You could have banged that out in a text scroll, and sure, that's not exactly the most visually appealing way to get exposition done, but it's better than what you did. Nothing. The actual intro is one of the more lopsided cases of quality I've ever encountered here on Anime Abandoned. You get a few shots here and there of some truly top quality animation, but then they follow it with embarrassingly bad CG backgrounds, or worse yet, mix the two together. This was made just at the time when animation studios began using CG, and I was never a fan of it. It's never seamless, and it makes shots look like patchwork quilts that they hang in county fairs. Hint, hint.
Anything?
Just a lot of interference. Hey. Well, hello. What do we have here?
Let's see. Smart enough to be the tech guy of the group, but dumb enough to fall for an obvious trap. This is JC, and he was your tech support throughout the game. Here, he's dead meat within the first 5 minutes. Bravo, movie. Bravo. I'm not going to pretend that this is some kind of betrayal on the movie's part, but JC's death here is one of the more confusing parts of this mess. Why in the hell is your tech specialist, the guy who's supposed to hack your way into any security system, is with you in the field? Why can't he be, I don't know, anywhere else? And even if you had to have him with you in the field, why would you not give him anything to defend himself? I mean, not even a rape whistle?
What is... It looks like it's a piece of...
So the brat sees him inching towards a trap and knows he's about to spring the trap, but chose to wait it out.
No, guys, wait. Guys, shut up. Don't say anything, okay? Oh, man, this is gonna be hilarious.
So the mutant thing takes over JC's body, and Fridge Large Meat answers back with a few rounds of hot lead. And this is how the anime starts. We don't know thing one about these characters, or where we are, or why we should care. I always hate talking about problems like this on the show because it's so hard to properly convey how disjointed and messy this whole anime is. But that won't stop me from trying. Imagine, if you will, if Aliens was cut like this. The only way anyone would know what's going on is if they played the video game. And if they did, they're probably pissed that they killed off one of the main supporting characters in such an insulting way. Okay, people. I think it's high time we cleared the air about a messy subject, especially when it comes to anime. Adaptation. Adaptation is nothing new to the visual medium, be it film, television, what have you, and anime is no exception. Adaptations can walk a very precarious line between being faithful to the source material and changing what has to be changed to fit the medium's restrictions. It gets even more complicated when you think about all the films and television shows that were made better by the fact that they didn't follow the source material closely.
Peter is here.
Yeah, that movie kind of sucked, but you know what? It was better than the Stephen King story. Still, regardless of how an adaptation comes out in the final product, they all follow a deceptively simple equation: addition, subtraction, and reduction. Subtracting, meaning taking away the guilt of Ozymandias in the wake of what he's done in Watchmen, and reducing, meaning turning the squid into Dr. Manhattan. It's knowing what to add, subtract, and reduce is what's tricky about the equation, and it gets even more complicated when you're trying to adapt something like a video game. Unlike books or even rock operas, video games are not so dependent upon a narrative. Plumber loses his girlfriend to a rampaging gorilla. Plumber jumps barrels to rescue her. Strong enough plot for a video game, not so much for anything else. Maybe a children's picture book, but nothing else. So how does one adapt a non-narrative dependent medium like video games into a film, especially considering it hasn't been done successfully before? When your strongest candidate is Prince of Persia, your standards can only go up. Well, simply, it's all about expanding. Addition, using my arithmetical metaphor. With something as bare bones as most video game plots, your only option is to build upwards, and this proves to be the biggest fault of Sin. Yes, it's not a well-told game, and it wasn't strong enough to warrant any kind of adaptation in the first place, but it's not like they couldn't make a good story out of Sin, or at the very least have it make sense. But what they added not only does nothing for the anime, I'd argue it makes it worse. And keep in mind, this was what they were working with.
But John, I'm willing to bet my life you've never seen anything like this before.
Yes, they made that worse. I don't know if the creators behind this are shit-chucking insane or geniuses. Or trolling. So, what did Sin the movie add to the story? Well, for one, a completely dried-up, pointless subplot about Big McLarge-Huge being in league with the Mafia.
Surely there are more comfortable accommodations to watch these ridiculous satellite launches. A distrust of technology, another thing your father and I shared. But we're not here to discuss technology, are we, Blade? Though the topic will enter the conversation. But it's a subject best discussed in the strictest confidence.
There are not enough invisible dicks for me to jerk off to properly convey how much I don't give a shit. Well, at the very least, they managed to keep Alexis mostly the same. They weren't dumb enough to screw up a stacked mad scientist who's in love with how evil she is. She's like if Julie Strain and Aro from Twilight had an evil, sexy baby. Somebody write that fanfic.
I've got them online, Sinclair. Do you want to speak with them?
I'm dying to hear their excuses, or lack thereof. Speak.
Military application exercises are still scheduled, Sinclair, but I have to tell you that Carson has yet to reacquire the package.
So, she's got a Luke Skywalker healing pod just to make Skype calls? Using sex appeal to clear away necessary exposition. Well, if it's good enough for Game of Thrones, it's good enough for Sin the movie.
Well, I need some immediate attention, Sinclair.
Really, Vincent, I'm quite busy.
I know what's going on. You're working on something really special right now. I just want to tell you I want to be part of it.
Well, do you really? Can you handle it? If you can handle it, then come back this evening and I'll catch you in.
Oh shit, the femme fatale alert! Holy crap! I haven't seen you since Mad Bull 34. Huh. Thought I'd be using you more. It's around here we really begin to see how much of a departure the movie is from the game. We meet JC's sister, who was never mentioned in the game, who begins breaking Butch Deadlift's balls to get him to give up the girl they rescued in the sewers to her special forces. So, Hardcore in this universe isn't a private security force, but an actual government-funded police unit. Why the change? And of all the things they changed, why the fuck did they keep the name Hardcore?
Special Forces has been watching Lorenzo Vitello for months. And then who should show up during a routine surveillance operation but you? And you have the gall to meet with him at my brother's grave.
You know, that is exactly what I wanted in my cyberpunk action movie. Soap opera bullshit! Well, doom to those who dare not heed the warning of the femme fatale alert, as the gullible schmuck here drinks obviously drugged wine and wakes up in a bad Hostel sequel. That is to say, a Hostel sequel.
You've always been willing to help me get whatever I wanted, Vincent. And now I have this particularly elusive acquisition I need your help with. Why are you so surprised, darling?
I mean, don't I look trustworthy?
Actually, Alexis here just turns the dingbat into a mutant so he can steal back the girl that Hardcore is protecting. Why does Alexis want this girl? Why is she making a drug that turns people into mutants? Well, the first question is answered, but the second question...
Tell me, Vincent, what's the street value of a drug that alters the body?
Incredible.
My father always believed mankind wasn't living up to its full potential.
She wants to force humanity's hand and evolve us. You know, for a brilliant geneticist and scientist, she knows dick about evolution. It's always been a pet peeve of mine whenever a story pulls an Island of Dr. Moreau, and here it's just eye-rolling. Sure, in the game, Alexis had the same kind of goals, but at least the game didn't try to heavy-hand it by throwing religious symbolism along with it. Listen, I know it seems like I'm jumping around the plot for this review, but there is so much wrong with Sin the movie that I cannot convey just by going from plot point to plot point. There is so little connective tissue between scenes that they almost play out like little vignettes of their own story, instead of meshing together to form one story. Because the anime never concerns itself with explaining the who's and what's in any proper order, the audience is left not caring about what is happening when the movie finally does come around to explain itself. Lastly, the changes they made to the adaptation are either so narratively inconsequential that you wonder why they changed it at all, or they drag the story down in ham-fisted metaphysical bullshit.
Daddy, where did I come from?
Now, Elise, what would make you ask a question like that at your age?
Mama told me that I was a gift.
You are, sweetie. All adopted kids are gifts. You're, an angel from heaven.
So that's why Mommy made me a jacket with angel wings, isn't it?
Elise!
Mama, I'm an angel!
It turns out that the little girl holds some kind of genetic secret that Alexis is after to complete her mutating drug. Why does this girl have it? Because apparently Alexis's father planted it inside her. I think.
Of the 5 that were created, only you were absolutely perfect. The only one who would not change. Time for you to reveal your secrets.
They're just making shit up as they go along, aren't they? Around the second act is when the entire anime just falls apart. Bold Big Flank gets word that another mutant is on the loose, but this is just a distraction for the newly mutated idiot to sneak into Hardcore headquarters to steal that little girl.
Oh my god, Blade.
So it's one of the clone girls, I think. It's never really explained, but I think Alexis sent her to be a distraction, but what confuses me is that no one makes the connection that there's a girl that looks exactly like the girl they're protecting, and she's a murdering mutant. It's like the thought never even occurs to them. God damn, this anime is a mess. Well, the mutant idiot manages to make off with the kid, all because JC's sister didn't have the heart to kill a guy she barely knew.
What the hell are you waiting for, JC? Damn it, shoot it! JC, shoot!
Maybe she doesn't want to. Maybe you'd like to join us.
Oh, God!
Oh, for fuck's sake, why is she even here? She contributes absolutely nothing to the plot that JC couldn't. Hell, they even call her JC. For my money, I don't think I've ever encountered a character that is so blatantly objectified like Rule 63 JC here. And make no mistake about it, she is nothing but a Rule 63. Besides the immediately obvious, like them sharing the same name, she ultimately serves the same purpose as JC used to have when he was alive. She opens locked doors and bypasses security.
You're not gonna like it. She's got some kind of sensory field scrambler. Stealth navigational systems can't make sense of it.
Don't worry about it. That's why I came along.
Well, good, because I was wondering.
My brother wasn't the only one who knew his way around a network.
You might be thinking that because she has suffered the death of her brother, that separates her character from his, but the anime barely addresses it beyond a few lines here and there. This isn't her story, and her personal history takes a backseat to the convoluted mess that is Splint Chesthair's story. Her character is fungible, a replacement JC that serves the exact same purpose he used to in the plot, and considering that the male JC was little more than an instrument that allowed the main character to continue his journey, both in the game and in the movie, her character is further objectified. So if she serves the exact same purpose and brings no added dimension to the plot, why the fuck is she here? Raise your hand if you're not the least bit surprised. You know, with all this talk about adaptation and character fungibility, I kind of lost track what's going on in the story. And I think it's affecting Flint Ironstag too.
What's happening?
Young man, we use our words, not our fists. Even when the plot makes about as much sense as John Trent's padded room. There's got to be at least one of you out there who's read Sutter Kane. So, with the girl gone and many of hardcore's finest slain, it's a good thing Rule 63 JC comes out of nowhere and figures out that Alexis Sinclair is behind everything. She says that she's been investigating her company, but we never see it, but fuck it, we'll take her word. Unfortunately, Alexis has many strings she can pull and has hardcore taken off the case, leaving Blast Hard Cheese to come running back to his mafia connections. See? There's a reason why him and his father had mafioso connections. It's so that Trunk Slam Chest can get magic bullets from the mafia.
He knew he might not be able to stop her, so he made certain he had a way to stop her children. It's an antigen created within Syntech. Neither your father nor I are sure of its effectiveness, but we know that Alexis Sinclair killed your father to get it back.
That was how caster shells came into being. There are 20 types, each one having a different effect.
So the Mafia had this antigen waiting in the wings for what had to be years, just so they could be used now? There's not enough meaning in the word lazy to describe how lazy this fucking plot is. So, Banff punch Rockgroin and his surviving cronies storm Alexis's stronghold, killing mutants as they go before finally reaching the obnoxiously crucified little girl. But of course, this has to be a trap.
Think back and try to remember the day your father died at your side, and how fortuitous for you the information he discovered.
There's too much internal organ damage, Charlie. We can't save him.
The Syntech disk. She has gene research, cybernetic integration. You can use it to save him.
Charlie, you don't know what you're saying.
You can save him, Daniel. Use her research against her.
Oh my god, Alexis intentionally leaked the information that led to Dirk Hardpeck's cybernetic implants. This changes everything somehow. Finally remembering that this is an adaptation of a video game, they manage to escape the trap and are confronted by the final boss, Alexis's corpse of a dad hooked up to a gigantic mutant toad. Fine, whatever, just kill it so we can pull the plug on this shitball.
Father!
And that's about it. The building comes tumbling down and the day is saved. God damn, was this a shitty anime. After thinking about it some, I'm inclined to give it some credit. At times the animation is quite good and the voice acting, for the time, was pretty spot on. And you know what? At the very least, this was bad in a way I don't think I've ever come across before on Anime Abandon. Normally, I just have to show you a clip and let the anime itself show you why it's shit, but here there's so much that isn't immediately obvious. You have to dig and really examine what exactly went wrong with this turd bucket, and I find it kind of rewarding in a way. I mean, sure, it's fun to rip into a stupid piece of crap, but when you actually have to examine why something fails, there's something enriching to it. Like you're learning what makes a story work, or in this case, not work. Still, there's no avoiding that Sin the Movie is absolute dreck, but just like what I said about adaptations, that doesn't mean we can't get something good out of it. So, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that Sin the Movie is bad, but it's almost academic in its badness. And that kind of gives it a slight shade of nobility. A slight shade of nobility. Well, I hope you all enjoyed Viewer Request Month, because next month is going to be Beast. Alright, kids. Out of the pool. Till next time.